got no script to follow, no mask to wear. Every word she speaks cuts through the air. No glitter, no smoke, just the truth laid bare. And they ask her why she won't bend, why she won't play pretend. She's purposed and proud, won't bow to the crowd. No filter, no lies, her heart's on the line. Take it or leave it, she's not backing down. She's purposed and proud. Every click a choice, every view a test. She's not chasing fame, she's chasing her best. No shortcuts, no cheats, just her soul confessed. They say honesty won't pay the rent, but she's not here for their consent. Her lens is clear, her voice is loud, and she won't be drowned. She's purposed and proud, won't bow to the crowd. No filter, no lies, her heart's on the line. Take it or leave it, she's not backing down. She's purposed and proud. She don't play your game, no way. Not chasing trends, not here to sway. Truth in her eyes cuts through the haze. She's fire and thunder in the digital maze. She stands tall, she won't break. Her words are bond, she won't fake. Heart on her sleeve, and she's purple edge. Won't sell her soul for your shallow checks. Honest to a fault if you can't believe she's living her truth. Heart on her sleeve, hey. They try to mold her into their frame. Whisper lies to climb the fame chain. But she's a wildfire, can't be tamed. Burning bright while they all play games. Heart on her sleeve, yeah, she's purple edge. Won't sell her soul for your shallow checks. Honest to a fault if you can't believe she's living her truth. Heart on her sleeve, hey. They throw stones, but she don't fall. Walls around her, they can't crawl. Her voice echoes through it all. She's the one they'll never stop. Heart on her sleeve, yeah, she's purple eggs. Won't sell her soul for your shallow checks. Honest to a fault if you can't believe she's living her truth. Heart on her sleeve, heart on her sleeve, yeah, she's purple eggs. Won't sell her soul for your shallow checks. Honest to a fault if you can't believe she's living her truth. Heart on her sleeve, hell. Heart on her sleeve, heart on her sleeve, hell. She's got a spark in her hand, a fire in her soul. lighting up the night like a neon glow. She ain't bending, she ain't breaking, no, she ain't gonna fold. Dreams stacked high like candle wax gold. Keep her name out of your mouth if you don't know. She's building up a world while you're putting on a show. She's climbing her way up, she's got that glow. Keep her name out of your mouth if you don't know. Got a camera rolling truth on display. Her hustle burns brighter every single day. Not a puppet, not a pawn, she's paving her own way. You can watch or step aside, but don't get in her way. Tall. You think you know, but you know nothing at all. Keep her name out of your mouth if you don't know. She's building up a world while you're putting on a show. She's climbing her way up, she's got that glow. Keep her name out of your mouth if you don't know. She's a storm in the calm, she's a grind in the shine. A rebel heart beating on her own timeline. Take no prisoners, her eyes are set on dreams you haven't even dreamed yet. Keep her name out of your mouth if you don't know. She's building up a world while you're putting on a show. She's climbing her way up, she's got that glow. Keep her name out of your mouth if you don't know.
Give me 1 second. I forgot to plug in my phone. Hold on. Hey, hey. Well, all right. What's up? You guys can hear me, right? Just making sure. You should be able to. What's up, Michelle? What's up, Amber? And everyone else that's listening that's not saying anything. So I do apologize for coming on so late. I have been fucking knee deep in this website. I have never built a website from scratch. And because I have a genius computer son who is doing this for a living and going to college for it, a top-notch college, no less, I was like, you know what? We should try building this from scratch. I've never done it before. It is so much better than like buying a theme and then filling in spots. And this is like amazing. I am so proud of it. It's coming out amazing. Hey, Ron, it's coming out amazing. Wait till you guys see it. It is unlike anything I've ever had. And it's just coming out incredibly. But it's a lot of work. Plus, I've been working the last couple of days. But I'm off for like a week. So It should be done by the new year, but I am just really excited for it. I really am. It's going to come out. It's coming out absolutely fucking phenomenal. So that's that. So that's where I've been the last couple of days. I also want to say I am so sick and tired of hearing about Britney. So if you're here for Britney, yeah, you go back to Queen Bee because you're not going to hear about it. She's already proven from today that she's an absolute fucking liar and she's manipulative. And you know what? It's just not worth it anymore. Like, I really am tired of fucking hearing it. So let's move on. So Tuesday night when I was, going about the website, I'm always looking for something on TV. I mean, I'm not TV. I don't even have fucking TV. Something to listen to, kind of like background music. But it's always a movie or, long crime or something. And I came across this case. I got to tell you, I am fucking shocked that nobody has picked this up yet. I thought for sure Justin was going to jump on it. Titanium Build was going to jump on it. Somebody. No, nobody is talking about it, which I'm fucking shocked. So let me also put a disclaimer on this. I'm not like Grizzly. I'm not a true crime channel. I am a case discussion channel. So I'm not going to sit there and research everything front and back, do FOIAs. No, I'm going to hear something. I'm going to bring it to you guys. I'm going to discuss it. I'm going to give you my theories on it. And we're going to discuss the case. So I just want to make that clear because a lot of people are confused between a true crime channel and a case discussion channel. And I am not a true crime channel. Never was. So this case, let me give you the background of it. I'm going to give you some highlights. Long Crime, not their main guy, but one of their off TV people or off people has gotten FOIAs, has gotten really into the case. So I'm going to play some of that, but let me give you the background. So this 40-year-old woman, beautiful woman, married to a doctor. Her name is Chastity Beallis. She's married to a doctor. She has an older son, and she has 2 6-year-old twins. The husband, the doctor, now they keep saying it's like a big mansion. Hold on, I forgot. They keep saying it's like this big mansion that's worth like $700,000. Okay, but it's in bumfuck Arkansas. That's why it's worth that much money. So hey Rock, she is 40 years old. I don't know if she was married before, but she has a now 25-year-old son, which we're going to get into later because I have my suspicions about him. I really do. But I'll get into that later. She, last February, or I believe it was February of 2025, the husband gets arrested for choking her. He admits to it. He says that he did it. She files a restraining order. She goes through the courts. She's trying to, make sense of all this. She then files for divorce, okay? She posts on Facebook right before she dies that the courts were abusing her and the twins for him, which I got to be honest, that is a very, very common tactic by narcissists. They use the courts to abuse the person. Unless you've been in the situation, it is so hard to truly understand. There is nothing worse than a tumultuous divorce / custody fight, whatever. It is horrible. How do I know? I lived in it 6 years. Horrible. So, and honestly, it seemed like from everything that I've seen, it seemed like they had a pretty toxic relationship to begin with. So they have twins together. They go through, she wants a divorce. Like I said, he admitted to what he did. and he only got like a year supervised probation or whatever. At one point through this divorce, he had supervised visitation. In the final agreement of the divorce, now remember, he never went to jail or anything. He's like this well-known, respected doctor. They had separated, though, in February. You know, right after this happened. They were living in 2 different places. She was still in the house with the kids. So then the father, the husband, ends up getting joint legal custody. From what I read from the papers, it's joint legal custody. She gets physical custody. He gets visitation. Standard custody agreement. Standard divorce agreement. He also gets an extra week, which this part made no sense to me, because they said that he gets 2 weeks and she gets 1 week. Okay, that's only 3 weeks. Where do the kids go the other week? And so that kind of threw me off a bit. I'm like, why is it only 3 weeks? So I don't have that answer yet. And you're going to hear that in the video, but it just doesn't make sense to me why, like, there's a week missing. But he got extra time. Now, mind you, if they get divorced, then everything gets split. And, you know, it stands by the custody agreement. If she dies and they're divorced, then her estate will go to her family. It wouldn't automatically go to him. If they're not divorced and the divorce is thrown out, he gets everything. She gets nothing. Now, keep that in mind. So, lo and behold, they go to court. They get this agreement. 1 day later, not 10 days, not 2 weeks, 1 fucking day later, they both, her and the twins, end up dead. Just 1 day. The divorce papers aren't even signed yet. Nothing is finalized. 1 day later, dead. The police are not stating if it was murder-suicide, which I find really odd. They're not stating he did it. Nobody has been arrested yet. And I think it's either the husband or the son. And I came up with this theory about the son yesterday. So that's kind of the background. Oh, and then we found out, too, his ex-wife was also shot in the head. But it was suicide. She was 30-something years old. So we have a husband who pleaded guilty to choking her out less than a year ago. We have his ex-wife who was shot, allegedly by herself. And now we have his new wife and his 2 children that were also murdered. Do you think it kind of falls on him? Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say he looks guilty as fuck. He has a lawyer. Lawyer swears it wasn't him. He had nothing to do with it. But his lawyers the next day had already filed to throw out the divorce. Because again, if you throw out the divorce, he gets everything. If the divorce is signed and goes through, the son gets it. There's multiple people on this case. FBI's on it. SWAT teams are on it. Like, the best of the best. Multiple agencies are on this case. Still no arrest, and they still won't release the manner of death other than they were shot. She was shot in the head and in the chest, and the kids were shot in the chest, I believe. So that's the background of this case. And I just can't believe that nobody's been arrested yet. So I'm going to go ahead and play Law & Crimes video from yesterday. And the reason why I'm playing the second one first is because it shows the sun. So I want to know what you guys think of it too. So let me pull it up. Bear with me. Ignore Dayton.
Oh my god, I can't believe the power's out, bruh. Yes, Phoenix, the power's out as your fucking light is on, nigga.
See, Ashley Banfield is talking about it. Maybe now people pick it up because of that. The feds are involved in looking for her. Hidden True Crime talked about it. Here's it. I think this is it.
We're hearing directly from the...
All right. Yeah, this is it. Oh. All right. Let me just switch this. Oh. All right. All right.
Family of the Arkansas mom who was found shot dead, her two 6-year-old children dead too, all inside their massive home. The bodies were found a day after a key hearing in a brutal divorce case involving Charity Beallis and her doctor ex-husband. What Charity's family is now doing as law enforcement remains tight-lipped about her death investigation and what her estranged husband, who had reportedly abused her, is up to. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris.
All right, I don't know why he said like allegedly abused her, because he definitely did abuse her and admitted to it. And he was convicted for it.
Stewart. On the Case is one of the most watched shows on YouTube, just like there's a reason Morgan clients. In the past few months alone, a client million, that's 40 below, or scan the now involves the Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Secret Service. It's unclear why those federal...
That's what it was. Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service are all on this case, yet no arrests have been made. It's been 10 days already. She's 40.
Agencies are involved, but it's definitely something that you don't typically see in cases like this. Now, here's a picture of Charity Beallis with who we believe are her two children, both of them roughly 6 years old. They lived in the tiny town of Bonanza, Arkansas. It's a small town right along the Oklahoma border, population 575. And this is where Charity lived. A massive 4-bedroom house that's down a secluded rural road. Zillow lists its value at around $800,000, and that is nearly 4 times the amount of the average home price in that town. Police say on December 3rd, they were called to the Beallis home in Bonanza, Arkansas, and it was around 9:30 in the morning. Charity's estranged husband was not living in the house because of a no-contact order that Charity had against him related to a domestic abuse case. Now, the call was a welfare check. The Sebastian County Sheriff's Office says that 2 workers allowed them to get access to the home, and that is when they made a terrible discovery. Charity was dead, and so were her 2 6-year-old children. All 3 had been shot, and it's unclear if deputies believe those gunshots were fired by someone who was outside the home, or if perhaps Charity had harmed herself and her kids. Deputies say the Arkansas Crime Lab is working to determine that. Now, I spoke to John Powell, who is Charity's son, and Randy Powell, who is Charity's dad. I started our interview asking them...
Okay, now watch this interview. This is a son, a 25-year-old son and her father. I get the father might be a little numb, but just watch the son. I find him very weird.
What investigators have told them, and they told me that they have virtually heard nothing.
Like your mother was just murdered with your little brother and sister. How do you not have a reaction?
They say they found out about the deaths on Facebook, but Charity's dad says he believes he knows an important detail about how his daughter's body was found. What have they told you about, and I know this is really difficult to talk about, and you probably didn't think a couple weeks ago that you'd be doing interviews like this, but what did they tell you about how Charity and the two kids were found in the home?
Nothing.
They haven't let us know anything about no details or nothing.
They told us nothing.
We found out that they were dead through Facebook, through people messaging us.
I found out from a sheriff of another county that I went to high school with. He called the coroner, and the coroner had him to tell me that the babies were shot through the chest and my daughter was shot through the chest and...
Yes, it is 100% her son, not his son, though. I believe he was his stepfather, but it's her son.
through the head.
The Sebastian County Sheriff's Office is running this investigation. They say they are following up on countless tips that have come in since Charity and the children's deaths. They say they're processing 12 search warrants right now. They may get more as this investigation continues. They haven't confirmed the details that Charity's dad talked about when he said that she was found with 2 gunshot wounds. Deputies say they are waiting for autopsy results to come back, as well as test results related to evidence that's been collected. What was Charity like for people who are just starting to see and hear about this story? I mean, we've heard a lot about the divorce that she went through and being the victim of domestic violence. What do you want people to know about her?
She was very loving. She loved everybody. No matter color, race, whether they were rich or poor, she loved everybody. Was a great mother and give all her love and time and compassion to those children. And she spent the last 9 months trying to save their lives. And nobody in Sebastian County would listen and do.
Now, I'll also give you a little update. The father called the courthouse after she was found dead and started screaming at the judge that this is the judge's fault and that the judges killed her and the system killed her. So the father was very upset, rightfully so.
Anything. There's stuff on her Facebook page where she wrote letters where the prosecuting attorney wouldn't even accept her letters from her or talk to her or anything. You can search her Facebook page and find that.
A key part of this story is the timing of when Charity and the kids were found dead on December 3rd, a day after Charity had a final court hearing related to her divorce from a man named.
Now, let me also tell you to fill you in a little. What this video that they keep showing is the son, when he was 17, didn't answer a text fast enough. So the father, or the doctor, I'll call him, had a baby in his hands, took a knife, and started slashing the kid's tires, all because he didn't answer a text fast enough. It's like, who does that? So the kid ended up moving out, but that's this guy, the John Powell.
Randall Beallis, who's a doctor and the father of the 2 children. Now, through his attorney, Randall Beallis has said that he had nothing to do with the deaths, and he's not a suspect, and he has not been arrested or charged in relation to these tragic deaths, and we don't know if someone came into the home to kill Charity and the kids. On the December 2nd hearing, Charity's family says a judge ruled that she would have to split custody with her estranged husband when it came to the kids. Court documents say they would also sell their physical assets and the money would be split. But as a reminder, police have not yet said anything about the manner of deaths here. Now, another important piece of context in talking about the divorce is that Randy Beallis pleaded guilty in October in connection to a case where he was accused of strangling Charity in front of the kids back in February. Charity filed for divorce shortly after in March. Now, I did have to ask Charity's family a very difficult question, and it's about a theory that's been speculated that this case could be the result of a murder-suicide following a difficult decision in a heated divorce case that went on for months.
Here's my only thing with that, though. I've thought about this in depth. If it was a murder-suicide, wouldn't they have released that? And why would all of these agencies be involved if it was a murder-suicide? Like, that's something they usually, talk about immediately. And the fact that the Secret Service and all of these agencies are involved, it kind of tells me there's no way that it's a murder-suicide.
Especially when it comes to the custody of the children. You know, the next question is not an easy one to ask, but since law enforcement haven't released any information, we know that she had a tough ruling in a custody situation on the day before that she was found. And it's been speculated by some that she might have done this to the young kids and then took her own life. Is there any possibility that could be what happened, or do you believe that someone came into this house and did this to Charity and the two young kids?
There's no way, God's green earth, that she did that to herself and those children. There is no way. They would like Randy Beallis and all the people that's got their pockets full of his money would like us to believe that. There's no way that happened. They got joint custody in the divorce case. I was there. She knew it was going to be tough times, and she also knew that it would be around the time that the court was finished, that something that they might lose their lives. The judge actually didn't want me even around them, so I wasn't even allowed to protect my family.
Even after Randall Beallis pled guilty to choking my mother in front of the children, I mean, he pled guilty to those charges.
Sure did.
And they still granted joint custody.
That was because...
In case you're not aware, in most states, unfortunately, unless he hurt the children, the mother and the children are always separate. So even if he tried to strangled the mother, as long as he never touched the children, he would still get custody. He would just have to stay away from the mom. I don't know why they do it like that, but they do. For some reason, the courts separate the parent and the children. I guess they think that you could be very abusive to your spouse, but you won't be abusive to your kid. Makes no sense, but it's the way it is across the states. And that's all states.
It was in October he pleads guilty, after this horrific, I've read the police report. I mean, it's just horrific what he was accused of doing. And then he pleads guilty in October. I saw his attorney said that he was going to get 2 weeks with the kids and then she would get 1 week with the kids.
Was a temporary basis. So the judge said he needed to catch up on the 9 months that he'd missed seeing them.
Randy Beallis pleaded guilty to domestic battery in the 3rd degree on October 6th of this year. He received a suspended sentence and he was fined $1,500. He was ordered to have no contact with Charity and he could only have contact with their children with court approval. Now, we don't know what role, if any, Charity's divorce and the history of being the victim of domestic violence played into whatever happened inside of that house. Dr. Beallis' attorney did send me a statement today in response to the accusations being made by Charity's family, where they claim that he has something to do with her death and the death of their children. Now here's what Dr. Beallis' attorney said in response to that. Quote, "I represent Mr. Randall Beallis. Mr. Beallis has been cooperative with law enforcement and fully supports the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office investigation. We hope that the Sheriff's Office finds the truth about what happened to Mrs. Charity Beallis and their children. Mr. Beallis was not responsible for the death of Mrs. Beallis nor his children's deaths. Mr. and Mrs. Beallis had a full-day court hearing on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Mr. Randall Beallis was awarded joint custody, decision-making for the children's school and medical needs, and his children were set to be with him on a schedule of 2 weeks with Mr. Beallis and 1 week with Mrs. Beallis at some time on..."
You see what I'm saying? There's 4 weeks in a month. So I don't get the whole 3-week thing. There's no months, it's only 3 weeks. So where do the kids go the other week? What they're not saying either, he didn't get joint custody. He got joint legal custody, which everyone gets. And then he gets, he would get just visitation, but they're saying that he's got to make up for 9 months, so he gets 2 weeks. Other than that, he'll probably get 1 week and she gets the rest, which is normal.
On or around December 3rd, 2025, the tragic event occurred before Mr. Beallis was able to receive his children back from their mother. The Beallis children were not brought to the hearing by Mrs. Beallis, and she was ordered to provide them to Mr. Randall Beallis on Friday, December 5th, 2025. He is now heartbroken that the return of his children was taken away from him. Mr. Beallis has given a voluntary interview and has allowed access to anything requested.
Now think about that for a second. He's heartbroken, not that his children were fucking murdered. He's heartbroken that the return of them was taken away from him. I don't know if the lawyer wrote it like that or if he actually said that, but that to me is a huge red flag. Wouldn't a normal father say that I'm heartbroken that they're dead? I'm heartbroken that someone came in and murdered them. I'm heartbroken that somebody came in and, shot my children. Not, I'm heartbroken that they weren't returned to me. Really, dude? What are you doing? Why are you making noises?
By the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office in their investigation. Mrs. Beallis has made false accusations against Mr. Beallis in the past. Evidence of these prior false accusations can be found in her book that she published. The book that Charity wrote is called A Lifetime of Miracles, Transformation Through Tragedy. The lawyer also says he personally has a copy of that book in his possession. What was your mom's, how did she and Dr. Beallis come to be? That they were in a relationship and then got married? I mean, what was kind of the story of their relationship?
She was a nurse at the hospital, Mercy Hospital, and she told me herself that he flirted with her and even pinched her on the butt and done some other moves that she thought about filing the sexual harassment charges. But then he smooth talked her however he done it, and she started feeling sorry for him because he whined and cried that his wife had committed suicide, and she felt sorry for him and thought that she would try to console him, and it ended up a short time after that, they were in Mexico being married. Very short time afterwards.
Now, Charity and Dr. Beallis were actually married to each other twice. Court records show they divorced in 2012, and then they were married again in 2015, and that is when they had the 2 children who were killed inside of the home. This is a picture of Shauna Beallis. She died in 2012 at the age of 34. Various outlets are reporting that she took her own life with a gun. Dr. Beallis was never charged in that case, and police reportedly ruled her death a suicide. We found her obituary that describes her as someone who had fun living life. It lists Dr. Randy Beallis as one of the people she was survived by. Now, according to her family, Charity spent the past 9 months living with fear after being the victim of domestic violence. Arkansas State Senator Terry Rice told 5 News, a TV station in Arkansas, that Charity had reached out for help to get protection earlier this year.
She talked to state senators, tried to get a hold of governors.
She wrote letters to the governors, senators, attorney general, everybody else, and sent them all the paperwork that she had up to that date, the conviction, everything. Some tried to help, but we don't know exactly who.
Her family says that Charity had a goal of one day becoming a victim's advocate for other women who have been impacted by domestic violence, but now she will not get the chance to do that. It does appear that Charity's relationship, the one that led to her divorce, was toxic, to say the least.
Give me your phone. I'm shutting it off.
Here comes the next one. Yeah. What are you gonna do? It's called being the parent, buddy.
My truck in my name.
Yep.
I paid for it.
Yep.
Give me that phone.
This is a video clip that has since gone viral on Facebook. It was posted all the way back in 2020, and it reportedly shows Charity and Dr. Beallis in a confrontation with a man. And this video is posted on an account with someone by the name of Lonnie Mitz on Facebook. Now, the poster writes, quote, "This is Dr. Randall Scott Beallis and his wife Charity disciplining her son for not returning a text as soon as they thought he should. They appear in court in the morning to decide custody of the 17-year-old and the 2 babies seen in the video. Please share this, as those 2 shouldn't be in charge of a pet, much less children." Now, on May 20th of that year, not long after that video was posted, John Powell, Charity's son, who we spoke with, filed an emancipation document asking that he get the rights of an adult. He was slated to turn 18 a few months after that incident. In his request, he stated, quote, that on the 14th day of May 2020, that Charity Beallis and Randy Beallis did take a knife or ice pick and slashed and ruined the tires of John Randall Powell's 2005 Ford F-150 vehicle, that he bought the vehicle, and the same is titled in his name. That John Randall Powell has a video of Charity Beallis and Randy Beallis doing the same. John, I know there's a video that's been going around the internet showing a interaction where I believe it shows Dr. Beallis and he has like an ice pick or something going into a Ford like F-150's tire. What happened there?
So I was living with him at the time, and me as well as my mother were pretty scared for our lives, because he's very controlling and abusive. He would persuade her and tell her every move to make and everything to do when he would get mad about anything. So he pretty much made her go to stab the first tire, and she couldn't do that. And then that's when you see him come right after behind her with another knife and taunt me with it and go to stabbing my tires.
Now keep in mind, so we have a psycho man who slashed tires because a 17-year-old didn't answer him fast enough. Hey, Tony. His ex-wife is dead, shot, named a suicide. And now his current wife, who he was divorcing, who was going to be a victim's advocate and ruin his name as a doctor, maybe put him out of his career, but definitely tarnish his name, the kids and her end up dead. Why hasn't this man been arrested yet?
Over something that wasn't even a big deal, just because he got mad and was just being controlling and trying to prove his point, I guess, that he's in control and nobody can stop him.
Randy, when you were at the custody hearing on Tuesday, just what stood out to you about Dr. Beallis at that hearing and the way that he acted?
Everything, hatred for my daughter and my family.
Randy Beallis has not been named in connection to the death of Charity Beallis, but he He is an admitted domestic abuser involved in a brutal divorce. Those are facts in this case. Now, the day after Charity and the kids' bodies were found, Dr. Beallis' attorney filed a motion to dismiss the divorce proceedings. Then, an attorney for John Powell filed a motion to intervene, asking the court to undo the dismissal of the divorce to allow him to become the administrator of Charity's estate. Then Dr. Beallis' attorney responded to that, saying that the divorce dismissal should be kept in place, writing, if a party dies after the divorce hearing but before the written decree is entered, the divorce proceeding generally terminates and the surviving spouse is considered a widow or widower, not a divorcee. The court loses jurisdiction over the marriage and related property matters because, legally, there is no longer a marriage to dissolve, end quote. According to Charity's son's attorney, along with the custody of the children being determined at that December 2nd hearing, when it came to assets between Charity and Dr. Beallis, they agreed to a sale of real property and each party to keep their own vehicle. Now, I do need to note that the latest entry into court records when it comes to this divorce case between Dr. Randy Beallis and Charity Beallis involves Randy, who is Charity's dad, who you saw us interview. Now, this is a letter that is addressed to the attorneys for Charity's son and Dr. Beallis, and this is what it reads, quote, the court wants to advise counsel that on December 3rd, 2025, my trial court assistant received a phone call from the plaintiff's father, Randy Powell, who was irate and made accusations directed to the court. Specifically, Mr. Powell stated that the judge might as well have pulled the trigger herself and that the judge essentially killed his daughter and grandchildren. Mr. Powell also stated the court has blood on her hands and asked if the court was still going to keep him from his grandchildren. Following said phone call, the court filed an incident report with the Fort Smith Police Department, end quote. Now, again, this case that is playing.
No, Tony, the father has every right to be pissed. As a mother, I totally feel his pain and I agree with him. If you've never been through a tumultuous custody fight, you can't know. They got to a point in my mother was ready to send my father, who had dementia and Lewy body Alzheimer's, to Iowa to shoot Brad because my dad wouldn't get in trouble because he has dementia. And my mom was dead ass serious. That's how bad it happens to a parent. So I completely get the father's point of view and his aggravation, his frustration. I totally get it. Because I'll never forget my mom so irate that day. Like, she literally had this planned out.
Out, whatever the reality is of the tragedy that took place inside that home, there is a lot of emotion that is going on, and you could feel that emotion in talking to Charity Beallis' dad as well as her son. And as I finished my interview with John and Randy, I asked them about the two people in this case who should receive the most attention, and that's the young boy and the young girl, 6-year-old twins who were found dead alongside their mom. What do you want people to know about them?
That they were very smart and very, very precious and innocent. I mean, the little boy learned how to play chess in 45.
This right here is why I'm not letting him off the hook yet. Who the hell refers to their little brother and sister as the little boy and the little girl? Who does that? How is he so detached from his own brother and sister to just say the little boy and the little girl? Weird as fuck. That's when my red flag went off on him. Both him and the father are going after money. He hired a lawyer to get the estate. So I just have not ruled him out as possibly and trying to set up, figuring that the other one would be perfect attack and the cops would automatically go after him. But after hearing this, I have not ruled him out.
Minutes, and the girl at 6 years old could draw and paint pictures like a professional.
And they were very, very loving of other people and so pleasant, had a real bright light to shine. And we went to their church Sunday. They invited us up there, and they were loved by all the whole congregation was just beside herself in tears and mourning over them and the children. The children were as bright and as precious as any I've ever seen in my life.
Now, we are waiting for more information from the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office. At this point in time, we do not know what they believe happened inside the home. No one's been arrested in connection to the deaths of Charity and her children, as we don't even know the manner of death and whether law enforcement consider it suspicious. Search warrants are being filed and interviews are being done. The U.S. Secret Service, Arkansas State Police, and the Department of Homeland Security are assisting the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office in
I have covered a lot of cases. I don't remember where Department of Homeland Security gets involved. So I think there's something none of us know yet. Not news reporters, nothing. But I cannot seem to think why Department of Homeland Security would be involved in a small town murder case. And Bob, you've covered a lot of cases too. You agree? I've just never heard that before. Especially when it's not cross county, cross states or anything. Yeah, Secret Service is involved. The Homeland Security is involved. The local police are involved. It's very strange.
In this case, results of an autopsy have not been released, and Dr. Randall Beallis, through his attorney, has stated that he had nothing to do with the deaths, and it's unclear if the impact of domestic violence or a months-long divorce proceeding that came to a conclusion the day before Charity and the kids were found dead had anything to do with what happened inside that home. Join us now to talk a little bit more about these divorce proceedings that have been going on. In the case of the Beallises, good person to talk to about this, family law attorney Randy Kessler. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. So it seems like a very tragic but interesting turn of events in looking at this case. They have the final divorce proceedings on the 2nd. Charity and the kids are found dead on the 3rd. The estranged husband, Dr. Beallis, his attorney files to dismiss the divorce on the 4th. What would be the difference between this divorce being finalized, which is what Charity Beallis' family wants to be done, and then if the divorce is just dismissed as the doctor's lawyer asked for the court to do the day after she was found dead?
So it opens up a whole can of worms. Typically, and I guess what the doctor's lawyer is saying, listen, the assets are here. I'm the only spouse remaining of this marriage that's still intact, so they're mine, and we'll go through probate court and we'll figure out what to do with the assets in the court that deals with people who have died, or their wills. And all things being equal, most courts would say that makes sense. Let's just shift it to probate court because the reason you file for divorce is to become unmarried. And at this point in time, this man is unmarried, so there's no more need for the divorce court. But it's a court of equity, Chris, so, is there something fishy going on? And of course, if we had a crystal ball and we saw into the future where the state could prove that this man had something to do with his wife's death, then it would certainly be inequitable to let him profit by his wrong, by killing her and then putting the assets back into his possession as opposed to whatever the judge did with them. So there are a lot of moving parts here. It's not a simple answer for the judge. Of course, she died in a horrible car accident that was completely an accident. I imagine it would be open and shut, and the judge would say, go to probate court. This has some, why not wait a couple of days until there's an investigation before you preclude the divorce judge?
See, that was my question too. Why did your lawyer file this the very next day? Your kids were just murdered. Forget if you didn't like your ex-wife, but your kids were just murdered. Why would you worry about assets the very next day? Makes absolutely no sense.
From finishing the job if he needed to or she needed to.
Because with the way the assets...
And Danny, with that said, that's part of my point. He was emancipated from them, didn't spend much time with them, yet he hired an attorney immediately for her assets. Weren't you emancipated from them? I could see if the father did it, her family, but he's coming up the next day. Like, the father filed on the 4th, like he got a lawyer on the 5th that he wants her assets. That's what makes me iffy about him.
Assets were split up. Like I read in the document, it says like each one of them was going to get a vehicle, and then they have to sell their physical property, which they do have a pretty large house. It was like $800,000 value home in a small town in Arkansas. If the divorce is dismissed, does he get those assets? Does he get the full, if he sells the house, like is it his because she's not alive anymore to be able to claim whatever stake she was going to get if they had sold the house and the divorce was finalized?
Right, that would be the default. Of course, I don't know if there was a will and what the intestate laws would be, but if she died without a will, and again, I don't know Arkansas law or I don't know probate law, but if she died without a will and he's the next of kin, then he probably would get everything automatically. Another interesting issue would be what if there were still minor children, because then selling the house means they have to move faster. Good thing we don't have any of that issues, although I wish we had those issues. I wish we had children still alive to make that an interesting legal issue. But yes, if she died without a will, in all likelihood, the house goes to him. And then her family, her son who's contesting the divorce, would probably step in and say, it's not fair to give him the assets because he killed her. If that's going to be the claim, then the probate court can look into that. And again, you don't get to profit by your wrong. You don't get to kill somebody and inherit what they gave you because you were their spouse, if he is charged. And again, it's a big if. We're not saying he's been charged or that he's guilty.
But even with that, I mean, if the divorce, if he, this ends up being, something that he has nothing to do with whatsoever, but still the divorce was on the 1 yard line to being done. I mean, they have the final hearing on Tuesday, and then because she passes away, like if he's not charged with anything, like he's still technically married, or like at the time of her death, they were still technically married.
Right, but divorces aren't final until they're signed and filed with the clerk. And of course, it's a different situation, right? When the court divided the assets, it was considering mom and the children and who was going to live in the house and the assets. All those things are different now. And so you would almost have to have a retrial of the divorce to figure out what should you be done now that she is not there, and she obviously doesn't need a car to be really silly about it. So typically when somebody dies in the middle of a divorce, it is dismissed. And I'll tell you, Chris, we had a case where we thought the divorce would be dismissed because our client died, but there was a paramour living in the house. And so the paramour had an interest in the house not being disposed of immediately, and they wanted to delay so that it would go into probate court. And the court said, no, I'm going to deal with that in the divorce, even though one of the parties is dead. So, we talk a lot about courts of equity, and divorce courts are courts of equity, not just courts of law, where the courts have a little bit of leeway and discretion to figure out what's the right solution to this problem, because every family is different, and courts need a lot of discretion in family law.
Yeah, it's just, you think of this case, and then it just adds in, this divorce was already, there's domestic violence that was involved in this divorce, there's young kids that are involved, and then for this to happen the day after the hearing, you can see why it's getting a lot of attention. If she did not have a will, and you have her son who's 25 saying that, he would like to be the person in charge of the estate, and assets of whatever she may have, someone dies like this, she's on the final moments of finalizing a divorce. Who is the person who could then, what happens if you don't have a will?
Yeah, and my rudimentary understanding would be that if the divorce was finalized, then the son is the next of kin, and he gets those rights, and he inherits, and he is in charge. And if the divorce was not finalized, like the husband wants, then he's in charge. So it still, has a big impact.
You see what I mean, though? If the divorce is finalized, the son gets everything. If the divorce is thrown out, the son gets nothing and the husband gets everything. So they're both fighting for assets. Is it enough to kill? I don't know. I don't know the son's position. Do I think it's the husband? Yeah, I do. But I can't rule out the son yet because they're both fighting for the same thing. They both want her money, which I don't understand. If she didn't work, isn't it the doctor's money? But if the doctor gets it and I also find it hard to believe that she wouldn't have a will. But maybe she didn't, and that's why the son hired an attorney. I don't know. But I just find it odd that she wouldn't have a will, especially with young kids. She was afraid for her life. At least some sort of will, but I guess not.
On how the assets are going to be divided, whether the judge dismisses the divorce or not. I imagine what a lot of judges do, and what this judge might be thinking, is to put everything on hold and tell the parties we're going to hold and see what happens if there's an investigation, and then I want the parties to try to work things out, the son and the husband, and try to figure out, is there any sort of compromise, because each side has something to lose. If the divorce is dismissed, the property goes back to the husband. If the divorce is granted, then it looks like it goes to the son. So with that hanging over both their heads, there's a lot of financial incentive to resolve it. But again, I don't think
Like, my initial thought was, if the son did do it, I'm not saying he did, but if the son did do it, everybody's going to think that it's the stepfather because of timing, because of everything. Maybe the son was going to kill him. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying that with all the people that are involved, the fight for money, how nobody's arrested, I have no idea. Wonder if he could have helped the son. Possibly.
finances are at the top of anybody's priority list right now. I think the son wants closure, he wants answers, he wants accountability, and I imagine he's going to hold on and fight until he figures out what happened to his mom.
Yeah, and it's just incredibly sad case, whatever the outcome of it may be, and then you have this, this divorce proceeding. We'll see how that plays out as well. Family law attorney Randy Kessler. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
I mean, because if you think about it, it's kind of like the perfect murder. You know that he just came through courts and he got, whatever. He got 2 weeks. He got what he was looking for. Plus, he just was convicted and on a year suspended sentence for choking her, domestic violence. And she was so scared of him. So here comes someone, and I'm not saying it happened. I'm just saying it's a thought. And it's what I thought. It's the perfect time for the son to come along, go after mom's money, and kill her and the kids, because he had to take out the witnesses. And by the way, there was no break-in with the house. There was no windows broken. There were no locks broken. It was definitely someone that knew them. And the kids would have seen it, so we got to take out the kids. And it would be the perfect time for him to get what's coming to him, because everyone's going to look at the father. Everyone's going to blame the father. And it seems so obvious that the father did it. But again, the son was after money. And it's a lot of money, from what I understand. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sit here and blame the son, but I'm just saying, there's no way that you can ever think that kids don't kill their parents for money. Kids absolutely kill their parents for money. Yeah, that's the other reason I was thinking maybe the Secret Service was involved, due to the wife, the ex-wife, that it was ruled a suicide then. Maybe they're going to reopen that and see that maybe it wasn't a suicide. So I thought of that too, that maybe that's why all these, Secret Service and all these agencies are involved, because it has something to do like that. Because I mean, what are the odds? So... And that's another thing, Bob, when you said follow the money trail, for him or for her? Were you saying follow the money trail based on him doing stuff shady or based on her doing illegal activity? Oh, there's definitely something more. No doubt about that. But the question is, what? What is more? You know what I mean? Is there... Hold on, let me see if they posted... I don't know if they posted anything today. No, the last one was Dark Secrets. The feds were involved. I'm going to play the one from 2 days ago.
Could get his children back.
So this was the first one, but like I said, I did it in backwards order because I wanted you guys to see the interview.
Which was supposed to happen on Friday the 5th. The lawyer said that Dr. Beallis is, quote, heartbroken. Now, another layer to this story is that Charity had reached out to a state lawmaker concerned about her safety. Arkansas State Senator Terry Rice told 5 News that Charity did in fact reach out for help to get protection earlier this year. Now, we don't know what the autopsy will find and whether police believe that this is a case where Charity turned the weapon on herself and the kids as she was going to have to share custody with her husband, or if this is something involving another person who entered the home from the outside. Join us now to talk a little bit more about this and what this investigation could look like is Sergeant John Rappa, former homicide detective with Advanced Police Concepts. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to be with us. One big question for me on this
guy looks like a priest.
Is I hear Homeland Security, I hear Secret Service. We're dealing with a case in rural Arkansas. What would be potentially a reason that those agencies would get involved?
You know, that's a really good question. And a lot of this is just speculation. But normally when Homeland Security gets involved, we equate that to human trafficking or smuggling or immigration violations or weapons violations and things of that nature. And of course, with the Secret Service, we're talking, you know, other types of investigations. But oftentimes, if it doesn't, and again, speculation, if it doesn't cross federal lines, because they're not there for the murder, that's going to be the local agency, you know, the murder investigation. But I know that the Secret Service has an electronic crimes task force, and they work with local agencies as well. I don't know if this agency is part of that task force, but oftentimes they have better electronics forensics lab, if you will. They have high-end equipment, things that local agencies might not have. So if you're talking about cell phone extraction, computer extraction, and things of that nature, I could see why they would enlist the help of a bigger agency, especially the Secret Service, when they have this electronic task force.
And with this case, I mean, it's, you know, whatever the outcome is, I mean, it's incredibly tragic because you have 2 children, of course, 6 years old, losing their life. Their mom has died. There was this terrible divorce proceeding back and forth. Right now, the big question is, like, how did they end up shot? We know that they were shot dead, but how did it happen? Is this something that's a murder, or is this a case where someone, potentially the mom, we know that she had a tough ruling reportedly in a custody hearing just the day before. Was this something where she hurt the kids and hurt herself? As a former homicide detective, you know, you come on scene, you know, you take in, and we weren't there in the room to know exactly what it looked like, but what are some of the things you're looking for that help you determine whether this was done by somebody on the outside or the inside?
That's a good question. And obviously, you know, one of the things that I was big on, and I was taught and I learned and I practiced, was you treat any death investigation like a homicide until you rule out that it's not a homicide. Even a suicide, if you feel something is a suicide, you still have to treat it like it's a homicide. So one of the first things I'm looking for to see if there was an outside intruder is obviously a forced entry and things of that nature. Now, in the instance of this, and again, this is speculation, we don't know what happened. The agency is doing, in my opinion, a very good job at keeping their cards to their chest. Sometimes that's important, so we don't know. But let's say hypothetically it was somebody like the husband, like Mr. Beallis. He's going to have a key to the apartment or to the house, right? He's going to be able to get inside. So, you know, the forced entry might not be there. But there's other things that we're looking for. One of the first things that I'm going to look for when I find somebody with a gunshot wound, that type of death, if I suspect it could be suicide, I want to get gunshot residue as quick as I can, a GSR kit. And basically what that is, anytime you fire a weapon, it expels gunpowder. And gunpowder is going to be on the hand, you know, in the immediate area of the hand, and of course around the forearm area, anytime somebody shoots a gun. So if it's staged to look like a suicide, we're going to look at that. And if there's no GSR, that's one indicator that it might be a homicide rather than a suicide. The other thing I want to look at almost immediately is for stippling. And basically what stippling is, it's a peppered pattern of unburned or partially burned gunpowder that usually embeds in the skin. So if I fire a weapon, the stippling, the gunpowder is going to embed in the skin. And the further back I am, there's going to be no stippling. The closer I am, the closer the group of the stippling, if you will. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for. And so if somebody claimed, let's say hypothetically, somebody claimed that they shot somebody from 8 feet away, it was a self-defense, and this is just one example, it was a self-defense crime, and I shot him from 8 feet away because he was coming at me, but there's stippling around the gunshot wound, that's indicative of being close to the victim, right, or to the person that was shot. So one of the things I'm looking for is the stippling. Does she have stippling, right? Was it a close contact shot, or was it a shot from a faraway angle, right? That's what I'm looking for to help me immediately determine whether it could be a suicide. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was, but it's got to help me kind of start to develop.
Come on, if it was a murder-suicide, it would have been out already. They wouldn't need to use all of these Secret Service agents and everything else. So I don't know why they keep pointing to that. Because I feel like if, I mean, am I crazy? If it was that, we would know it already. And why would the Secret Service be involved? Why would the FBI be involved? Why would all these agencies be involved if it was a simple murder-suicide? So I feel like if this guy's got enough money, they're going to come out with that. I kind of like, you know, the ex-wife was a suicide. But I keep hearing them justify that, oh, it could be a murder-suicide. Show me any murder-suicide that took days or weeks to come up with. Give me a break.
My theory around the facts of the case.
Because this, you know, her body was discovered, the bodies were discovered on December 3rd. So it's been a week since this discovery was made. And, you know, from the outside, you know, you only know what law enforcement is releasing. And like, we don't know whether it's one or the other. Like, is this a murder-suicide, or is this something that was done by a person on the outside? I mean, how, and this is just me who just, you know, takes in whatever police are telling us. I mean, you're the one who does these investigations. Like, how obvious is it if this was a murder-suicide? Like, is that something that they would potentially release by now if that's what they were dealing with?
So that is a really good question. And so I'll tell you, one of the things that drives me crazy is when departments release, and it's bad for us, it's bad for the media, it's bad for stories like this, right? But one of the things that really drives me crazy, especially when I worked in homicide, is I didn't want to release details of the case. I wanted to hold that to my chest. And one of the reasons why I think that's important is I don't want the suspect to know what I know. I don't want those details to get out there, because if it's not a suicide and I am looking into somebody specifically, I don't want them to know that you know, about the GSR or the stippling that we just talked about, or that I downloaded the phones and I've went through their social media profiles and I'm looking at arguments and things of that nature. I don't want anybody to know that just yet, right? I want to save that to if I get to interview the suspect and so forth. So I think it's extremely important sometimes to hold that to your chest, and that might be a reason why they're not releasing some of that information.
Because also, there's always, there's been several cases in the past where there's a debate over, if it was ruled a suicide, you'll have family members saying that it wasn't, and there's this back and forth. In a case like this involving a gunshot, I guess how difficult is it for somebody if they actually wanted to cover it up? And I'm not saying that that is happening here, but with everything that goes into determining from the gunshot residue to the angles to how close a gunshot was fired, I mean, how difficult is it potentially for someone to make it?
Let me just say what I love about this reporter more than the main reporters. He literally says everything I'm thinking. Like every single question that I have, he then asks, the person. No other reporter has done that, but he is like so fucking on point. That's why I love watching his show more than so many others.
It seemed like a suicide when it wasn't.
So I took a class many years ago on stage suicides, and it was very eye-opening. And one of the things that I learned was the theory of, does the story match the evidence? When you're trying to determine whether it's a staged suicide or if it's a homicide, does the story match the evidence? And what's the story? The story is, obviously if there's witnesses, right, you're going to get a story. If the victim is still, you're still going to get a story, right? But what else is the story? The story is all the evidence involved. It is stippling, it's the GSR, it's the forensics evidence that we're looking at, the tower dumps, right? Was there forced entry? We're looking, does the story match the evidence? Is this a suicide? And in my opinion, in my experience, more often than not, on the initial, when we first walk into a crime scene, it could look like a suicide. It screams suicide. But as we start to uncover details, pretty quickly we can determine whether it's a staged suicide or not. But you always have to go in with that mindset. Does the story match the evidence? We have the evidence. We have the entry of that, whether there's forced entry, whether you're looking at the forensics log, you're looking at, social media logs, text messages between a victim and a possible suspect, right? These are all the stories. And then you obviously look at the crime scene. Do they match? And we can tell fairly quickly, not in every case. Some cases, they get away from us. It is what it is. But fairly quickly, in my experience, in most cases, you can tell fairly quickly if it's going to be a suicide or a homicide.
Now, Dr. Randy Beallis, he's not a suspect in this case, hasn't been charged, hasn't been arrested. We don't know if we're even dealing with a murder in this case, but because of his history, and he pleads guilty to a domestic violence charge in October, he's in this divorce hearing, his name comes into the discussion surrounding this story. His attorney, though, says, his attorney says that he has nothing to do with it, that he's voluntarily given an interview to police, that he has turned over everything that they've asked at this point. What would you say is, I guess, cooperate? When I know when an attorney says my client is fully cooperating, that can be very different from what a detective sees as fully cooperating. Right. What do you expect from someone maybe in his position at this point that you would see as full cooperation?
Sure. When you lose a loved one, and I know that they were going through a divorce, and sometimes divorces can be ugly, and it seemed like they had some problems. But when you're going through when you lose a loved one, at one point they loved each other. They're still, and especially the children, right? So when you lose somebody close to you, your ex-wife, your children, a natural reaction is going to be cooperative. So for me, that's submitting to all the interviews, having, the interviews with the police officers, with the detectives, letting them know what you know. Of course, giving up your phone, giving up the cellular forensics. Just any time the police ask for something to help further their investigation, somebody who is truly cooperative is going to provide that information for the police. It's probably the same thing as a defense attorney would feel that is cooperating for the most part. But that also includes the interview.
Yeah, and certainly we don't know how. We know he voluntarily gave an interview, but like, how did the interview go? How did he answer questions? We haven't heard from law enforcement's side of it. We also don't know if he has an alibi, or his attorney hasn't said like he was at location X, for this period of time. And maybe that information comes to light. Generally, like, what's the bar when someone says they were somewhere? How do you prove that typically when it comes to like, an alibi and making sure that it's rock solid?
It's fairly easy today. I always say I don't know how cops solved crime in the 80s. It was very hard. They had to get out there and actually do police work. And we do police work, don't get me wrong. But there's so much technology available to us. You know, we're talking about your cell phone data. Your cell phone always tells the tale. It always tells you where you're at. It always says, you know, your location. So we're looking at that. We're looking at most towns and cities across the country have automatic license plate readers. And to me, that's important as well. We can follow most folks. Once we, you know, develop a suspect, we can find out where they were just by sometimes plugging their tag into the automatic license plate readers. So all of these things. And then, of course, obviously, if they have an alibi, we're going to go check up and follow up on that alibi as soon as possible. And we'll try to prove or disprove that alibi. The more we talk to people, whether it's victims or witnesses, the more somebody talks to us and we have evidence. If they're lying, their story starts to fall apart, you know, rather quickly. And then that person starts to become more of a suspect. And of course, with Dr. Beallis's history, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that here in a second, you know, and again, speculation. I'm not saying he did anything. I don't know. The department has not released anything, but surely he's going to be a suspect, especially for the fact that I believe the divorce was finalized the day before she was killed. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was the day before. So she is found December 3rd, she and the kids, inside the house in the morning after like a welfare call. And we don't know who was the original person to call in and say, hey, can you go check on this house? But they have this final divorce proceeding on December 2nd. And then according to his lawyer, who told the New York Post that Dr. Beallis was awarded 2 weeks with the kids. She was awarded 1 week with the kids, which I did find interesting just because of his history. And it was just in October that he pleaded guilty to a domestic violence charge, that he was the one to get 2 weeks and she was to get 1 week if that was to check out. We don't know if, you know, at the end of the day, what the motive could have been for whatever happened in the home.
Absolutely.
How often have you seen, because this happened, I mean, the day after, having a what sounds like an emotional type of hearing, do you see this type of violence, I mean, within the hours or day after something like a divorce becomes final?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily lead to homicide. I've worked a couple of cases like that, absolutely. But generally, I've seen domestic violence escalate because one person is mad that the court case didn't go their way. And I see that all the time. We see the violation of the restraining orders and so forth. So that's a very common thing. That's why when I read this initially, and I'm sure, you know, even the detectives working the case, it's, you know, they're always going to look at the husband, the ex-husband, but in something like this, you're looking at what happened on December 2nd and what happened on December 3rd, and it screams, we've got to look into this person.
And again, we don't know if he has an alibi that's rock solid, and police have already said, hey, he's not a suspect. We'll see what more information they release. I think they're just in the...
Like, that's another thing. Why is it so under wrap? Usually you hear stuff. Police leak stuff. Things get out. Reporters find out. We know nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. Why? Why is it under such lock and key?
This holding pattern to see whether, you know, information comes back on this being, you know, a murder-suicide or a murder that happened on the outside. But as they're in this holding pattern, just what stands out to you about Dr. Beallis? I mean, he has this history, you know, and I see why, you know, his name's been brought in, but he hasn't been accused of anything yet. You know, you have what seemed like a very, very scary situation where he allegedly tried to strangle his wife, Charity, in front of their 2 kids back in February.
I think domestic violence is always a bad thing. When you have a history of domestic, it's happened before. And from what I understand, I don't know this to be true. I've read some articles on this case. This has happened. At least she alleged that this case of the strangulation was not the first. There had been other accusations from what I understand. And correct me if I'm wrong. But I think when domestic violence leads to the level of strangulation, there's danger there. That's far beyond pushing somebody or hitting somebody, which is still wrong. But that strangulation, you could absolutely kill somebody that way. And you're taking that to the next level. So it's a very unfortunate situation, but you could see how volatile it got over the years.
It was absolutely a toxic marriage. We'll see if that played into Sadly, what happened? These two kids are dead,
Right.
and Charity Beallis is dead as well. Sergeant John Rappa from Advanced Police Concepts, former homicide detective. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on Law and Crime. We appreciate.
Does anyone else find that cop incredibly cute? There's something about him. He's just very handsome. So I just had to, I mean, I don't like that he looks like a priest, but he's very cute. All right. So while I was looking up an article that Bop said, I found something else.
In the middle of his grief, John Powell says he's holding on to his mother's faith.
Remember her as a good Christian woman that loved her children and loved her family and friends more than anything. But she always put God first. And I'm grateful for that, because I know where she is now, in heaven.
Sebastian County investigators say Charity Powell Beallis and her two 6-year-old twins were found shot to death inside their Bonanza home on December 3rd. So far, no suspects have been publicly named, and no one has been charged in their killings. John says that uncertainty has left him looking over his shoulder.
So yeah, I'm still fearful for my life, as well as a few other people. I'm not going to name them for safety reasons, but they're scared as well.
Court records show John has now gone to court himself, asking a judge to reinstate his mother's divorce case. 5 News shared last week Randall Beallis filed to dismiss the divorce case after Charity's death. Powell says he's leaning on his own attorneys to help navigate that fight.
My legal team has began to help me fight for my mother's justice and this divorce case and stuff. I really can't disclose a lot of information, but my legal team is working on it.
He says the most urgent battle is over where his mother's body will be laid to rest.
Yeah, that's our top priority right now, is to be able to put my mother to rest like she deserves, instead of letting someone else get her body and do whatever they want with it. That's our main goal right now.
The Sebastian County Sheriff's Office says it's now working with Arkansas State Police and other local agencies, as well as federal partners like Homeland Security, to piece together what happened. John says knowing federal agents are involved gives him some comfort.
A lot of hope. I'm glad they have looked into it and are taking the time to pursue this case and bring justice for what has happened. I'm very, very grateful.
While investigators continue to execute search warrants and gather evidence, John says he just wants justice for his mother and little siblings.
And there's that. So I'm just looking through the article to see if there's anything else. All right. The divorce wasn't finalized. They didn't sign anything yet, but it was their final hearing. They had an abatement in the case on Monday due to Powell's death, but her son is now fighting to get the divorce finalized. Court records show Powell went to court himself, asking a judge to reinstate the case. My legal team has begun to fight because the thing is, like they said earlier, if the divorce is final, the son gets the money. If the divorce is just goes to probate court, that technically they're still married, the ex-husband gets everything. Unless he gets found guilty, then it's going to go to the son anyway. And that might be all I got on it. But I found it to be a really interesting case. You don't think he was cute, Yarn? I do. And like I said, I'm really surprised that it has not gone viral. Because, I mean, it has everything. Oh, I guess the lawyer posted on Facebook. Hold on. Representative Beallis, Mr. Beallis has been cooperative with law enforcement and fully supports the investigation. We hope that Sheriff's Office finds the truth about what happened to Charity and their children. Mr. Beallis was not responsible for the death or his children's death. He has given a voluntary interview and allowed access to anything requested by the Sheriff's Office. Mr. Beallis was not responsible. Those are the words of his attorney. In an email to me today, Doug Warner's a reporter. His client gave a voluntary interview to investigators and has allowed access. Court documents reveal a turbulent year. Oh. Yeah, same thing. I believe Beallis is a criminal mastermind. That's just crazy. Yeah, I just saw that she covered it. But that's not even her. She only got 30,000 views, I saw. For someone like her, 30,000 views on a case is nothing. Like, hold on. I'll show you what I mean. No, I haven't. Here, like, that was a long crime. Hold on.
Give me a chance to prove it to you.
Okay. So 7 days ago, she did a video. She got 118,000 views on a different case. Chad Daybell's cousin charged 118. I guess she normally gets like 40-something. She's got a lot on the Daybell case. Yeah, I guess that's her normal thing, about 20 to 40. I thought she got more than that. Yeah, she's pretty consistent. Aaron Spencer. He was murdered. Arkansas man charged with killing a man when he found out. Hold on.
We begin tonight with new information.
When he found in a car with his 14-year-old daughter. I kind of remember hearing about this. Kind of.
Information in the case of Aaron Spencer. Hello and thanks for joining us here at 6. I'm Faith Woodard.
And I'm Brooke Buckner. The case has received national attention since his arrest last year, and that continued after he announced he would be running for sheriff in Lonoke County last month. Spencer is accused of killing a man who at the time faced more than 40 child sex crime charges involving his 14-year-old daughter. He argues he was protecting her and pleaded not guilty. He has the support of more than 360,000 in a petition backing his actions.
Now, according to his attorney, he is running in hopes of bringing to light the failures in the system, but if he's convicted, he won't be able to serve. Tonight, THV 11's Carter Thweet gets us up to speed on how the case is unfolding.
Prosecutors attempting to paint a picture that Aaron Spencer planned to kill 67-year-old Michael Fossler even before he found Fossler with his 14-year-old daughter on October 8, 2024. That theory emerged in a legal brief late last week. His defense says his actions before the shooting aren't relevant. The state says they are, and included several new details in their reasoning. Prosecutors highlighted Spencer's conduct 3 months before the killing. Prior to Fossler's arrest in July on more than 40 charges and counts, the state says Spencer asked an acquaintance of Fossler's for the man's address. He allegedly told that person, quote, "Don't call anyone. Don't call the police." But word did get out, and as investigators looked into the rape, 2 Lonoke County Sheriff's officers showed up to Spencer's home. A transcript of their conversation, recorded by body cam in July, is in the state's filing. Spencer questions how much prison time Fossler might face. He asks the officers, what's going to happen? 3 to 5? He's rolling around, cruising, grooming? He then refers to another child abuser and says, quote, "He's going to get back out, isn't he?" indicating his belief that the same would happen with Fossler. One of the deputies warned Spencer, saying, "We don't live in a country where you can take the law into your own hands." Spencer responds with an expletive. The prosecution saying all of this proves Spencer had an intent to kill, saying, quote, "His understandable rage did not give him the legal right to kill Fossler." Ultimately, that'll be up to a jury in a trial for second-degree murder set for January 26th of next year.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Thank you, Carter. THV 11 has reached out to Spencer's attorneys for a statement in response to the state's filing, but we have not heard back yet. If Spencer is able to run, he will look to unseat current Lonoke County Sheriff John Staley, who is running for another term. That election date is set for November 3rd of next year.
A man claims he found his missing teenage daughter in a car with a 67-year-old man, an alleged stalker. And now this father is accused of killing that man, and he could be facing criminal charges. I'm going to talk with renowned predator catcher Chris Hansen to get to the bottom of this story. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Quickly in the middle of the night in Arkansas last week. So we have 36-year-old Aaron Spencer, who reportedly called 911 to say that his 14-year-old daughter was missing. And while his wife searched the area around the home, Spencer hopped into his truck, started driving around looking for her. And that is when Spencer apparently spotted 67-year-old Michael Fossler with his teenage daughter in a car. And according to Spencer's wife, Heather, he started chasing the car that Fossler was driving. There was some sort of accident. After the crash, there was apparently some kind of confrontation between the two men, and Spencer allegedly shot Fossler, killing him. Well, when Lonoke County Sheriff's deputies arrived, they took Spencer into custody on suspicion of murder. His family was able to get enough money together for a $150,000 bail. There's a lot of different moving parts in this, including Fossler's history. So I want to bring in right now renowned predator catcher, founder of True Blue, the host of Takedown on True Blue, the host of Predators I've Caught with Chris Hansen. Who am I going to bring in? I think you guessed it, Chris Hansen, to talk more about this. Chris, good to see you.
What a wild case, Jesse.
I was going to ask you, in your experience, have you seen this kind of vigilante justice?
Apparently the guy was already warned in some method or fashion. And so they get onto this, the father does, and he finds the girl in this guy's car. Imagine the outrage. Now, you know, that doesn't mean it's okay to kill somebody because of this, but you have to take this into consideration. So I would have to believe that while there are charges here, and while it may be a question of fact for a judge or jury, jury's going to be pretty sympathetic to a fellow who's in this position.
I also am going to make the argument, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, if you can even get a fair and impartial jury in a case like this. But your experience in your career, you've seen parents who have taken.
Oh, I've seen. Yeah, it's happened.
Violent with people like this.
It's happened. It's rare.
Yeah.
Most people let the criminal justice system do its job. But I just finished a.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. From what we just saw, he was letting the criminal justice system do its thing, but then realized that they weren't going to do shit. So can you blame him for doing what he did? I don't. I stand behind him. Kill all his motherfuckers.
A sting operation in Florida with the Polk County Sheriff's deputies down there and Detective Grady Judd, the sheriff down there. And in a matter of days, we caught a lifeguard from a Disney resort. I mean, here's a guy who's looking at children all day and he shows up at our Sting house to meet up and have a sexual liaison with a 14-year-old girl because he says his fiance wasn't paying enough attention to him. We had another guy who was in the Orlando area on business as a videographer, there for a convention, from Minnesota. He lies about his name. He jerks the detectives around. He lies to me during my interview with him. And it turns out all the time, all the while we're talking to him, he is out on bail after being arrested for virtually the same crime in Minnesota. So he's out on bail for trying to have sex with a boy in Minnesota. And what does he do? He goes off on business to Florida, and he gets right online and tries to set up another sexual liaison with another 14-year-old boy in Florida.
It's pretty disgusting, and I would say, oh my gosh, shocking, but really not shocking since we cover this so much. Going back to this situation, though, so Spencer's arrest, as you can imagine, it has caused a lot of outrage in the local community and online. So Heather set up a Give, Send, Go fundraising page, which has raised, our understanding, more than $100,000 to go toward Aaron Spencer's legal defense. I believe this was after an issue with GoFundMe because you're not allowed to raise money for a legal defense on that platform. So she's accepting donations through Venmo and Cash App. But a lot of people are outraged at what happened here. And a couple days after the shooting, the sheriff took to Facebook to kind of try to quell the growing unrest.
As your sheriff, it is our duty to conduct a thorough and factual investigation. Law enforcement does not file charges. We gather evidence and submit a case to the prosecutor, who will then decide whether or not to file charges. Currently, official charges have not been filed. I have not, nor will I, advocate for any specific charge.
Now, as of Monday night, it doesn't appear that the district attorney's office has filed official charges. This was more a preliminary murder charge, so there's not an official charge yet. But we are learning more about Mr. Spencer and Mr. Fossler's backgrounds. So we started by looking up the suspected shooter, Aaron Spencer, and we actually looked him up on Truthfinder. It's really easy to do. You just put in the person's name, location, less than a minute. Our paid subscription gave us access. According to a post from Heather on the fundraising page, her daughter's interactions with Fossler actually started earlier this year. She wrote, in spring, summer 2024, our then 13-year-old child was targeted, groomed, and ultimately raped by the boyfriend of a family friend. Our family did not know this monster. He just appeared in a place where our child should have been safe and got access to her phone number, and that's all it took. We let the justice system do its job. The monster who hurt our child was charged quickly, but released even faster on a $50K bond. He was awaiting court in December for several felonies in relation to what he did to our child.
Oh, hell yeah. Shoot the motherfucker dead. No, this father did nothing wrong. This father deserves to be out of jail, period. This is crazy.
Now, those charges appear to include internet stalking of a child and sexual assault, but the exact details weren't available because the criminal complaint has been sealed for privacy. But Chris, that kind of gives us an idea of what we're dealing with here.
Well, yeah, obviously this guy was caught. The damage was done to this child, the grooming and the exploitation, and he doesn't learn his lesson? Just like the guys I described in our most recent sting, this guy will not stop until he is put in prison. And so that's all going to come into play when the prosecutor considers the charges against the father of the victim here. And I can't imagine that he'll see a day in prison.
The idea, though, that he goes after the person that he's accused of first targeting, not even going out and trying to attack someone, but going after the initial person. That's the part, and that's why people are outraged that he was out on bail too.
He's a stone cold predator. I mean, what else can you say about a guy like this? Somebody like that is incorrigible. Somebody like that doesn't learn a lesson. Somebody like that can't be deterred. If you get arrested and you're out on bail pending criminal charges of this type, and you go back, these people, in some cases, are like heroin addicts. You know, they need to fulfill this fantasy. The heroin addict knows there's a 20% chance there's fentanyl in the heroin, they do it anyway. The predator knows there's a 20% chance they're going to get caught by me, by one of the law enforcement agencies around the country, but they do it anyway. They can't control it. And for that subset of people who commit this crime, there's no choice but to keep them locked up because they will offend again and again.
Now, to be clear, from a legal point of view, right, these are allegations that are being asserted. These are allegations being asserted by the Spencer family. But just to go back to this, according to Heather Spencer, she and her husband, they wake up at around 1 a.m. on October 8th. to the sound of their daughter's dog barking, which they say was unusual. And when she wasn't in her bed, they started a frantic search. The two reportedly didn't know that Fossler had apparently been in contact with their teenage daughter. But Heather said that on social media, they believed Fossler had taken the girl to kill her. So when this car wreck happened, Spencer says he was able to grab his daughter from the car. Fossler attacked him, so he shot him. So kind of a self-defense argument. Now, the sheriff has said that they investigate every death involving a shooting like this as a homicide, and whether or not they believe that homicide was justifiable or not, that would have to be determined as the investigation progressed. But Chris, here's the thing. You put the legal aspects to the side. Whether this was self-defense or perhaps even downgraded to something like voluntary manslaughter. You're acting in the heat of the moment. You're acting under extreme emotional disturbance. Guy sees his daughter allegedly being kidnapped, and he's coming to the rescue. You can understand that. You put aside the legal aspect. I don't understand from a point of view, from a public policy point of view, how they charge him. I get it.
Yeah,
you don't want everybody taking justice into their own hands, but...
Yeah, especially given the fact that there is this belief that maybe he was going to kill the girl. And maybe in his twisted mind, without that witness, he doesn't face prison on the charges. We don't know. And we also don't know what was going through the father's head, but I can predict without fear of contradiction that the father was afraid. And if you're looking at your daughter in the hands of a predator, again, I don't see how this guy gets charged.
Let's say he does.
Yeah.
Let's say this is a murder charge. Finding a fair and impartial jury, given the community outrage here.
I don't see a prosecutor in a smaller town like this who knows everybody, who knows, all the...
Unfortunately, Chris Hansen was wrong because he was charged with second-degree murder.
players in this. I just can't imagine that this man will ultimately go to trial for any sort of homicide.
Now, to be clear, look, I've covered cases before, different kinds of
It's
abuse.
possible, and we've all seen, exceptions to that common sense.
Because murder's not the answer. I mean, look at Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Clear case, she was abused. Menendez brothers, you can make the argument that they were abused. They're going back and forth about whether it was a self-defense argument. But the point is we're not just saying murder is a justification. But here's what's interesting. The sheriff told USA Today last week, this guy that preyed upon their daughter was released on bond, and we had stopped him that night and got him with her. That bond would have been revoked. He would have never got out of jail. None of the bond companies would have let him out. We wouldn't let him out. A lot of things there. So he's seemingly acknowledging Fossler was a predator and a danger. Let's start there.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe what he's arguing is that the father should have called the sheriff's department, called 911, and let them handle it as opposed to take matters into his own hands. That's a good argument. And then he would have been arrested and never let out on bond again until and after he faced criminal charges in court. That's a reason why maybe you detain somebody and you investigate the case and maybe there is some sort of charge filed and it becomes a question of fact for a judge or jury. But in the heat of the moment, does any parent wait until the police get there? Do you call 911 and then give chase? Do you just do it because you act out of instinct? Those are hard questions to answer. And it's hard to really point a guilty finger at this dad for doing what he did based upon what we know so far.
And it's different than, and the allegations don't support, the facts don't support this, if he had went to the car, immediately opened fire, if there was a struggle and he was trying to get his daughter back.
It would be different if this was a case where we have seen in the past where the guy somehow sneaks a gun into the courtroom and sees him and says, you so-and-so, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Or if he gets him being walked into the courthouse, or he goes to his home and kicks the door in and takes vengeance that way. But this is a case where the man who was facing criminal prosecution for grooming and sexually exploiting his teenage daughter has custody of.
He raped her. This is how I see it. He raped her. He was convicted and he was let out on bond. And then he takes her again. If I was on that jury, I would never convict this man. I don't even care if it was premeditated. If he raped the daughter and then the father wanted to kill him because he got out of jail, more power to him. Even if the cops think it's premeditated, it was premeditated after he raped his daughter. it wasn't premeditated before, before anything ever happened, that would be a different story. This was premeditated after he raped the daughter and got out of jail. Fuck these cops. In my opinion, they're wrong. He should never be charged, and he should walk away scot-free. And then he should sue the police department for not doing their jobs. So, there's that. That's what I got for you guys tonight. Little different than the usual Brittany, which I can't deal with anymore. I don't even want to listen to anybody talk about her anymore. So, we'll take our 40 people in here and mosey on along. But like I said, I just thought that was a really interesting case tonight. And I've been following it all week. And I'm blown away that nobody's been arrested yet. All these agencies, and now one person has been arrested. And now there's a big fight for money. So who did it? Who done it? So, to my 40 people that were here all night, I want to thank you for coming. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out. And I will keep you guys updated. And the website is coming along phenomenally. All right? Hey, Lord Troll, you still here? And Lord Troll, I still need you for Discord, but I'm just not ready yet. But as soon as I'm ready. So, all right. I will see you guys later. Have a